Okay, hi, my name is Irma COF, and my topic's about cell phone usage. Just like everybody else that probably has a cell phone at their pocket, on their table, or probably looking at it right now instead of listening to my speech, has always had a cell phone, either just for entertainment, school, or just when they're bored. And my topic would be, and someone can argue that a cell phone is a good purpose to have, just to have it in your pocket, but many can argue that it's dangerous or even cause health effects. For example, according to the Pew Internet Project Research webpage of scientists study U.S. politics, as of 2014, 60% of American adults own a smartphone. Smartphone owners are particularly younger adults and minorities with lower income, and Americans depend on their cell phone. My major claim I'm presenting to you today is cell phone use. Cell phone use causes lower levels of concentration and focus overall. My supporting points are: 1, cell phone use is disrupting human bonding and intimacy. The communities of cell phones are creating compelling social problems overall. And 3, the cell phones are significantly impacting a cause of distraction. In my first point, cell phones interrupt human bonding because when you have a conversation one-on-one with somebody else, you get to make eye contact, you get to see their body language, you get to hear their voice, their tone, and you also just get a personal and warning where you could also just trust somebody when you're having a conversation. And you get rid of that when you're having a conversation via text, via email. Instead of having a phone call, many students, me myself, I'd rather have a conversation through text than phone call because I don't feel secure enough to talk to them over the phone. I feel awkward. As said in Chapter 2 of Advocacy and Opposition by Raya Kathy, citizenship in a democracy of Athens required communication skills. So this comes to show that our ancestors required to have a conversation, to engage and just add ideas and build together as humans and become a union upon a certain subject. So that comes to show that communication has come ages, and just the overall communication has always been in person, and recently technology has developed and made us just more antisocial than social. According to Andrew K. and Neda Winston of the University of E6, showed that our phones hurt our close relationships and found that having a cell phone nearby, just checking it, can be detrimental to our depth and impersonal connection. Not only do cell phones divert, but can be taking up our internal connections and just bonding that we can have with a loved one or a family member or a friend, and we're actually neglecting them. Cell phones may serve as a reminder with a wider network to which we connect, but in having your ability to connect with people right next to us also reduce our social consciousness of what's really going on around us. They conducted a survey and asked students in an undergraduate research of communications, and various students said that it bothered them when technology was around them and they felt like they were getting ignored either by their friend, their loved one, their partner, and only 6% disagreed. Personally, myself, I rather just not have a cell phone on me. Like, yes, it's helpful, but at the same time, it distracts me from being in school. My point, too, is that cell phones are creating compelling social problems. Today, Americans use smartphones on the daily that connect us to a broader world of online access. Cell phones are convenient because we can get a hold of each other in any instant. But for example, in a case in Riverside, according to ABC 7 News, a sexual assault suspect was loose, and authorities said that victims were young girls that were contacted through social media, which is one of the main reasons of how sexual offenders use social media to hide behind that, which is an effect of cell phone usage because they abuse the cell phone and the technology just overall. Another negative effect is that cell phones are to blame for anxiety and addiction to social media and the device itself. According to Alejandro Linares, a PhD psychology professor at the University of Illinois, People who self-described as having addictive style behaviors towards the internet and cell phones scored a much higher rate on depression and anxiety scales. Another compelling social problem is sex exploitation among teens as sexy. Sending explicit text via images on the Journal of the Academy of Pediatricians reported that 50% of adolescents have reported someone who sent a text similar to that. Functioning as an alternative to real world similar to social media where you connect yourself with others, where you're truly disconnecting yourself from social media and the environment around you. Finally, aside from that, my third point would be significantly impacting the cause of distraction and cell-phone use in school. As said in the news of education, more than 1/3 of teens with cell phones have admitted to have stored information to look at during the test. Overall, my main point would be that my major claims I'm presenting to you today is that cell phone use causes lower levels of concentration and focus. And that's it.
Do you have the outline for me that you were using to speak from, or did you going to give it to me later?
I'll get to later.
Okay, not a problem. Just checking. Okay, the proposition, well, I know what the subject is, and it sounds like you've got one proposition and then a different proposition, so that was a little bit confusing. You want to make sure that you got one declarative statement, that it lowers attention and focus. That's like multiple terms. I guess they're a little bit closer, but attention and focus, the consequences that you're talking about, I think, work well on the first one and maybe the third one, but the second one, you've got a different set of issues that you're talking about there, so I'm not sure that fits under the proposition as you phrased it. However, the secondary points, you do preview them and let us know what's coming up, and then you signpost them as you get to them in the body of the speech, although I did think that your third signpost was not as clear in the body of the speech as the first two were. You did a good job, for the most part, citing information in the presentation. At first, I thought that it sounded a little iffy because you've got some hypotheticals about eye contact and you're using your personal experience. And then you use the text to talk about, to quote about, social democracy. And I'm going, so we're going to be, winging it on this one. But then you presented a whole bunch of information to support your point. So I thought it got a lot better after that. You cited authorities for the most part. You quoted them. There's some statistical information that's being presented. I don't know how significant these problems are sometimes, so I don't doubt that there's situations where somebody's been contacted on social media and sexual assaults have resulted. I'm not exactly sure that that's automatically on a cell phone, although it could be. It could also be on other types of platforms that social media exist on. So what's particularly unique about the cell phone needs to be explored a little bit more. It was also a little bit confusing because at one point you said that you yourself prefer to text rather than call, and I'm going, okay, and then later on in the third point you're saying, I'm better off, I feel better when I don't even have the cell phone. I'm going, well, wait a second, if you didn't have the cell phone, apparently you wouldn't be interacting with anybody by your criteria because you don't want to call people and you only want to text them, and now you don't even want to do that. So I think that there's a little bit of a built-in internal inconsistency in your argument there. The anxiety issues, I think, were nicely developed. You had a whole list of potential claims there. They don't get a lot of development on that second point, but there's some information on each of them, so I think there's an argument to be made there. You do a pretty good job speaking, although there's a little bit more reading than you probably want to have. All right, thank you.